Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Three College Idiots podcast, sponsored by Rachel's First Week. I am one of your hosts, Evan Lesniewski. I'm here with Sam Myers and Andy Manzer. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hey everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the Lifeline Law, but until we get to that exciting bit, we're going to introduce Andy.
Hi, I'm Andy Manzer. I am a senior at IU, and thank you for having me on the podcast, guys. Very excited.
Of course. So yeah, today we are going to be talking about the Lifeline Law. If you are unaware of what the Lifeline Law is, it's a medical amnesty law. This is what it's called in Indiana. I'm sure other states have it. Just check out, if you live in other states, check it out online. This type of law grants immunity to minors for certain alcohol-related offenses when they call on the behalf of another person who is intoxicated or the victim of a crime. So these are really great laws. We're actually going to say a big happy birthday to the Lifeline Law because it is 10 years since it's been introduced into Indiana, which is great. It saved a lot of lives. And in my opinion, it's doing a lot of good work.
Yeah, so the Lifeline Law is a medical amnesty law. So what does that mean? It means that if you are a minor who has consumed alcohol and you call the police or EMS on behalf of another person who is having a medical emergency, something like alcohol poisoning, you are protected from getting in trouble for a certain alcohol-related offenses. Stuff like public intoxication, minor consumption, which is, just what it sounds like, being under 21 and walking around drunk. So if you're under 21 and you've been drinking and you come across someone in need of medical attention on the way to a football game, the Lifeline Law protects you against minor consumption and public intoxication because you called on behalf of another student in need. It also protects you against minor transportation. Now, this is a little more confusing, but also it's really important. So that like when you as a minor, even if you're stone cold sober, you can only transport alcohol in your car if you have a family member accompanying you, even if it's in a closed container. So let's say you're taking your 21 fraternity brother to the liquor store to get beer, and on the way he passes out. If you get pulled over, even if you're sober and there's still alcohol in the backseat, you can get charged with minor transportation. But if you were to call 911 or EMS for your fraternity brother who passes out, you are protected by Lifeline Law. In other words, you can take your grandma to the liquor store, but not your fraternity brother. And just for clarification, the Lifeline Law will not protect you if you're driving under influence or driving an open container. So don't be an idiot or don't be a dumbass.
Yeah, so it does a lot. It protects a lot of people, but things you do have to remember to continue being protected is, one, you will have to stay with the victims till the help arrives. You will have to provide your contact information to law enforcement. And you also have to provide information about the victim if you know them. In reality, most of those who cooperate, the police have little to no interest in arresting anyone and honestly not even talking. I've had to call the police before. It was even my first year in school and they did not care about anything about me. They just wanted to help the person. So although the Lifeline Law does cover alcohol, currently it does not cover drugs if you're under the influence of any drugs such as marijuana. And it also does not include amnesty for the victim. So we're going to jump into like a little story. If any of the other hosts have stories about maybe times that they had to call, maybe times their friends, this has happened, or times that maybe you wish you would have called and you didn't.
I can start. Me personally, I've never had to use this Lifeline Law. Thank God I have never been in a situation where someone would have to call for me or I'd have to call for my friends. Although I do know someone, one of my closer friends, is a freshman at IU this year. He had to use the Lifeline Law this year because one of his friends wasn't doing too well. You know, they went out to a party around Halloween, and it's really the house parties, dorm parties where people get messed up, and especially the younger people because, you know, it sounds really fun. Let's go have a party. You know, there's going to be alcohol involved. They don't know their limits. They don't know their pacing, and they can get really messed up really fast. So unfortunately, he had to call for his friend, and I'm glad he did because police were able to show up, get the information, get the kid everything he needed to get better. And I think thanks to that, he is fine. So I think this Lifeline Law it really helps, the youth, the younger people to feel comfortable making this call, like, because they might not be in a position to help, or they just might not know how to help. So having this law really helps people feel comfortable on getting their friends help instead of, just trying to manage it or fix it themselves.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I am pre-med. I'm surrounded by other pre-med, and we know what to do when we go out, but all of my other friends, they don't know what to do. Sadly, we've walked by someone, and one occasion where I had to call the cops, and my friend told me after that she would have just left the person because she would be too scared of what to do. And I think a lot of this information needs to be known. I know that IU does a great job at telling what the Lifeline is to the freshmen, but I feel like everyone in college, anyone in that time of their life should know this. I know that Evan has a good story about a friend of his that used the Lifeline Law.
Yeah, I have a friend that actually very, very recently, yeah, it was this past Halloween. They were at a party off campus, really similar story to Andy's, and they drank way too much, way too fast. And well, at first it seemed all right at first. And when they had left the party, I guess they were talking, they were walking, whatever. And no one thought that anything was wrong or anything about it. But then once they got back to their dorm room, things just went worse, got worse and worse and worse to the point where they couldn't wake her up. The people who were with her couldn't wake her up. And at that point, they got the RA and they had to call 911. They ended up taking her in to the hospital and she's okay, but they gave her IV and all that fun stuff. But what was weird, so like all the people that, of course, were with her, just they got their names taken down or whatever, and they were protected by Lifeline. But what we found out, this is how we found out all this, that she woke up and next to her was a ticket for underage consumption. They absolutely needed to call 911 for her. And but it was really kind of a startling thing to wake up to, like, oh geez, like I'm already like extremely stressed out. I'm in a hospital right now. I feel like garbage and really just not in a good headspace. And now I have to go to court. And it's just really, I mean, I think that like we talked about before, that it's really something that I think should be changed about the Lifeline Law. I think that not only the patient's already dealing with enough crap, they should not have to worry about a ticket.
Yeah, I can't even imagine waking up in the hospital and just having cops in the room ready to hand you a ticket for it. I also agree. I think amnesty for the victim. I remember my freshman year, we had a girl on the floor I was living on who they should have called the cops for. She was showing signs of alcohol poisoning, which signs of alcohol poisoning, we use the word pubs to remember it. So P is puking, U would be unresponsiveness, B would be breathing irregularly or shallowly, and then S, your skin is blue. So for some people, you will have to lift their lip and see for the color difference. If you see pubs, put someone in the recovery position immediately. That would be one arm behind their head, so they're leaning to the side, and make sure that they don't aspirate on their own vomit, and then call 911. So we had a girl my freshman year who she definitely needed the police, but her friends didn't call because they thought that she would get charged and would lose her scholarships. And home life wasn't great, so she needed to stay at school, and scholarships was the only way she could stay there. So they did not call in fear of losing friends, in fear of their friend losing her future. So I think this is an example of someone who we need amnesty for the victim in these circumstances for Lifeline Law. Bottom line, everyone makes mistakes in college. Don't be making the fatal mistake not to call, though. A drinking ticket is not as bad as losing a friend.
I hate to play devil's advocate here, but do you feel like maybe if they do give advocacy, what was it called? What's the word?
Amnesty.
Amnesty. They give amnesty to the victim. Do you think that in the future might change people's mind about it. Eventually, be like, oh, it doesn't matter how much I consume like while I'm underage anymore, because no matter what, if I won't get charged with anything. Do you think maybe people start thinking that way?
Well, I think the way Lifeline works now is that it only like qualifies you if like actual like medical help is needed. Like you can't just call it like you can't just like call 911 just to call 911 to get out of something. First of all, that's a different charge. But also like all of the people that like I have known that have had to go to an ER because they drank too much, it changed them. Like it's like I mean, it's a near death experience sometimes. And I really don't think that anyone's gonna just kind of be like, I'm gonna drink this entire bottle of vodka because I can just go to the hospital and not get charged. I mean, and also we don't exactly have free healthcare in the United States either. So
Yeah, your parents are going to be real upset when they get that bill for the stomach pumping. Yeah, no, but I agree with you, Andy. I was thinking the same thing for quite a while, and I also was under the impression, well, what if it does give someone? And I agree that there are probably going to be people out there that may be like, oh, well, even if I have to go, but I agree. Going to the hospital, you're in college, you're on your own for the first time. You're at the hospital, unconscious. Your friends, I can tell you now, it freaks people out when they have to call the police. It's definitely not a good thing to see someone unconscious and not breathing and turning blue. And for the person it happens to, I mean, I think it can really change you to thinking like, I'm not going to do that again. Pivoting to, we also would love to see amnesty for drugs. Again, if you're at any college campus, it happens. You can walk past a house and smell the marijuana. I don't know if you guys have experienced that, but there's been a lot of overdoses recently and a lot of laced drugs. I, for one, have friends who have family members who have lost others to fentanyl overdoses that were laced with fentanyl.
no, yeah, I think that especially now that we're kind of getting to the point where I mean we are surrounded at this point pretty much by states that have legalized marijuana. And so especially, I mean, it's really easy for people to get now. So that is a prime example of why it'd be good to include marijuana and other drug overdoses, along with what you were saying about fentanyl overdoses. I mean, fentanyl is a huge, huge, huge problem right now. And if we want to continue to fight that and let people not die, we need to provide medical amnesty for that.
Yeah. And again, drinking underage is illegal. We're in the United States. Legal drinking age is 21. Drinking underage, that is illegal. And we're not here to say that, like, you're an awful person. Because no, if you are in college, I'm sure you are around underage drinking, possibly a part of it. We know it happens. And we want to have something there to make people feel comfortable to call if someone drank too much, which sadly on a college campus, binge drinking is really prevalent and not talked about enough, in my opinion. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think.
oh yes,
Yeah,
finally.
my bad. Like you said, binge drinking is big in college, and it's obviously very bad. And honestly, I think it's one of the most dangerous things when you go to universities, and that's one of the things that parents worry about the most is all the incidents related to being like all this drinking that happens. You guys remember the first semester, an accident happened where a student was hit by a car because the driver was way too impaired to even think about getting the keys, and it just doesn't affect the people sometimes lose. It just doesn't affect the person drinking. It can affect others who aren't drinking, and unfortunately the kid died due to his injuries, and it's just tragic. So like you said, drinking underage illegal, but if you just so happen to be in that situation, don't be scared to help someone out. Call a lifeline. Take keys. Big one. Make sure no one gets behind the wheel, and that's the important thing. Just stay safe on campus.
Yeah. Yeah. So exactly. So we at the Three College Idiots have actually met with former Senator Jim Merritt. He was the one who created the Lifeline Law in the first place. And he actually had a lot of college students who came to him and expressed their concern and how they wanted a medical amnesty law in Indiana. So currently, there's actually legislation in the state of Indiana that's looking to expand the Lifeline Law. It is hoping to expand for amnesty over drug use and also amnesty for the victim. We are a huge proponent of this at the Three College Idiots podcast, as well as our parent podcast, Rachel's First Week. If you guys have any bit of need to get involved in this cause, you can do it. Contact representatives where you live or where you go to school. Get everyone you know to petition for this cause if you feel that it is a good cause. This, again, was how the Lifeline Law was created in the first place. And I know a lot of people think, you're just a college student. All you have to do is just classes and finals and you don't do much, but you can make a difference. We've seen it. This is the population that has been the most affected. Reach out if you have any questions about the Lifeline Law and want to get involved with us.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the Three College Idiots podcast.
And a very special thanks to American Medical Response, NASCAR, Healthcare Initiatives, and the Zebo Foundation for their financial support of this podcast. See you next time. Stay safe.
Okay, so if you managed to listen through the credits, we're going to enlighten you with our Three College Idiots outtakes and bloopers.
Enjoy. Yeah, no, the last one I think was Thanksgiving. I told a story. My great grandma, she's like 103 now. Yeah. I don't want to live that long. I have those genes and I don't want to. But she's going to be 104 in like 2 months. And she came to Thanksgiving one year and talked about foot fetishes at the dinner table. And I told that story on the podcast and they cut it out.
They cut it. Yeah, you told me about that.
I was like, that's so disrespectful. It was such a good story too. It was so good. It was about some kid in my grandma's class who had come over and like ask to rub the feet of the moms.
That is horrible. That's horrifying.
It's really funny. But
should we stop the recording?